And we're live. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Cat Eyes again. How you doing? What's up, cats?
Hello.
All right.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
Yep. Tonight we have a special guest. We have two special guests. We have the Scarecrow and Mark Sargent, and I'm just gonna have a little talk with these guys. Um, we just want to ask Mark, how he got started, what's he been up to, and whatnot. That's pretty much it for now. But yeah, how you guys doing?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
And likewise, thank you.
Me too. The same. Nice to have you on the panel, Mark. My pleasure to have you here. I'm
Oh.
glad you made it. Sorry about the confusion. I did it with Patricia too. I was,
Oh, no, it's okay. Trust me, I did tech support for years, a number of years. So even now, 2018, it does not surprise me when it comes to computers. We still have delays. We still have to reboot, and we still, email addresses. Heck, every day I get somebody who says, "Oh, Mark, you got to see this. It's fantastic," and then they don't send me the link. Everybody forgets the link. Even nobody gets past that. It's a rookie mistake, and you hate to see it, but that's okay.
Right. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you on that. Yeah. So, yeah, Mark. So, well, this is the first time me and you have had our first talk. So, nice to meet you. I've only seen you on the chats, seen you with Patricia a lot, but never actually had a conversation with you. So, yeah, man, good talking to you right now. Just this is great. Thank you for coming through and having a dialogue here with us.
Oh yeah. Happy to do it. I've done everything from major networks to high school newspapers. In fact, it's a surprising how many high school newspapers I have done where they have called up and said, "Oh yeah, can I talk to you for our local local high school thing?" It's like, really? And I haven't done like a junior high yet because I know they also do newspapers, but I'm waiting. I'm sure that'll come. And
that's great. Is that with Flat Earth Clues or just
pretty much, or one of the variations of it, either Under the Dome, full documentary, or They're Heading God with the Greatest Lie Ever, or there was one, as a matter of fact, called something. It was something like a hiding God type thing, and it was done by a channel, and I don't know any of these people at all. It was done by a channel called Peter Pan, and so people keep texting me and emailing me saying, "Hey, Peter Pan." Took me about 3 weeks to figure out what that was all about. It's like going, why is it a gay thing? What am I wearing? I don't know. So yeah, it was just some guy who had mirrored the clues. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Peter Pan, got it.
Yeah, Peter Pan, fun. The other guy's Leisure X, and one's called Dr. James, which is weird. And all their subs are because of the clues. So not only have I given millions of hits away, literally millions, I've given away thousands and thousands of subs to people because luckily they'll email me from one of those mirrors and they'll say, "Hey, have you made anything else?" It's like the only thing I see is that thing, that Flat Earth Clues movie. It's like, oh yeah, I've done a few things here.
Yeah. So okay, rewinding the clock. Let's take it from the top. Let's some people are familiar with your story, some people are not. So you just want to give us beginning and middle and end of your Flat Earth journey?
Sure. Back in middle of 2014, I was doing a lot of was it peyote mixed with some ketamine, and I'm pretty sure that it was some ecstasy in there. I was buying it outside. I was too old to go into raves, and so I was just buying whatever they were selling on the outside of the raves. And I think the kids are still doing that. They were calling it Molly or something to that degree. So it's mixing the three of those. No, that's all made up. I didn't do any of that stuff. I was doing
microphone, you guys. Okay, he's closet raver here. Okay.
Yeah, I know, this is really cool. Every time, because I'm old school. I remember I'm older. So this microphone kind of reminds me of the spaceships that were used in the first or the only Close Encounters of the Third Kind movie, but it was actually given to me by Chris Pontius, the guy that makes all those really cool physical 3D models of the flat Earth, and so he sent this to me, and I added a little foam thing on the front so the lights don't completely blind me, because I'm pretty sure so I don't actually see the lights that much. It's not too distracting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm trying to hypnotize you and kind of do a rave. Well, if I have a flashlight, I could probably do a rave. Here we go. Now I'm doing raving, right? That's what they do.
Yep. You need the glow
And
sticks.
never been in a rave, but I'm a little jealous of that because they look really cool when they show them in movies and television. Anyway, so summer 2014, I was conspiracy bored, meaning I had looked into just about every conspiracy you could ever think of, and never thought had all been said and done. And then I stumbled upon, and I had to look this up recently because I'll say, well, it was a German guy that was doing stuff on flight paths, and it turns out the channel was actually Cesar. If you ever heard of him,
okay.
CAE space SAR, and his channel was recently taken down. I don't know what for. I take a guess, and I'm not going to. And then it was so he's back up. But I looked at him, and he was doing a flight comparison thing about flights going over the oceans and how the connections were looking really weird. And it was all in German because he splits up his videos. Half of them are in German and half of them are in English. And I looked at that and I thought it was I didn't think it was nutty. I thought it was interesting because I could get it, even though I didn't know German, even though my family's pretty heavy German. I don't know German. So I thought, yeah, this is pretty neat. Then I stumbled upon Matt Boylan's video where he was talking about, where he was sitting on the couch and talking about how he worked for NASA and that creepy story about him out at that NASA party in the East Coast of the United States. And I thought, you know what? This is good enough to keep my interest. I'm going to dig into this. I don't believe it for a second. I think that flat Earth is a piece of crap, or I did back then. And I kind of fiddled around with it for the next 9 months. Literally was, poking around different avenues, pulling on strings, and or shaking the tree and seeing what falls out. And I was getting more and more frustrated to where literally I woke up February 10th, 2015. Woke up in the middle of the night, 3:30 in the morning, and thought that, okay, I'm going to go about this a different way. I'm going to go and I'm going to ask the internet for help. So I made my very first video, which was the Flat Earth Clues introduction, or the guide to Flat Earth. And I put it out. It was basically a cry for help. It was like, look, I can't prove the globe anymore. Not in a court of law. I would lose if I went to the court of law and tried to prove the globe. Can anyone else out there help me? And thinking that I honestly really thought that some academic in astrophysics or astronomy was going to call me up and say, okay, here's where you went wrong. You can just shut up now and shut down your channel. The exact opposite happened, where people were calling, the smaller podcasts were calling me pretty quickly. And then my phone started ringing, because I put my phone number out there. This is actually still same phone right there. And it, oh, by the way, here's old school. You want to see what this phone's hooked up to? There you go. How's that?
The bat line.
That's old school right there. You can actually buy these on Amazon, and it's so comfortable. We use these things for, old people use these things for decades, and they're still, I think, the most comfortable, most natural thing on your head, but whatever. Anyway, so people started calling and leaving, and I was picking up the phone back then. It's like, hey, I wonder what this person wants. And they'd ask me questions like, wow, this flat Earth thing, I have questions. Wow, this flat Earth thing, I have questions. And then this sort of a chain reaction happened to where I was getting bigger podcasts, and then literally Coast to Coast got a hold of me 3 months after the first clue. And it was a very awkward scenario where they called me and they wanted me on the show. And I was like, okay, who are you guys? I knew kind of who Coast to Coast was, but I didn't know that much about it. And then the book publisher contacted me and said, hey, we heard you on Coast to Coast. Like you to publish a book. It's like all these things just started happening to where after the first 6 months, any doubt I had about flat Earth went away. But I had finished the clues. I did the first 7 in 8 days. So the first 7 were done before the end of February. And then I finished a few more after that. And then it was just kind of just doing follow-ups and interviews. And then the Strange World show, True Frequency Radio contacted me because Rob Skiba had invited me to, he wanted to interview me because he didn't believe it. And by the time I was done with that interview, the station contacted me and said, hey, how would you like to do your own show? It's like, wow, sure. Okay. Like they asked me like literally right on the spot, what do you want to call it? Like, what? we've only been talking for like 10 minutes. You want me to like name the show right now? And so I named it Strange World, and here we are. So sorry, that was kind of a drawn out intro, but
no, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you just kind of skipped over a few things, but I can bring back some of the things that.
oh yeah, please do. I do
Yeah,
get to jump around.
That's all good, but yeah, man, yeah, good stuff. So I've heard you say you've had this Jerry Maguire moment.
Yeah,
9 months in. Tell
yeah,
us about that.
yeah. Literally, again, I woke up when I woke up in February of 2015. It was so surreal. And I know people say, well, they hear voices, or I was downloaded, or I was touched, or whatever. It was in my own voice. That was the strange part. I could hear the narrative. I could hear myself saying this. I knew what I was going to do. I mean, I got up right then and there. I took a shower. As I was taking the shower, I say, okay, this is my first paragraph. This is my second paragraph. I've never written so clearly in all my life, to where, and then it felt kind of Forrest Gumpish. Like when he was running across the country back and forth. It's like, well, I got to the one end, might as well turn around and start walking back the other way. It was like, okay, well, I wrote it, I might as well narrate it. Okay, I narrated it, might as well add pictures. Well, might as well put it up. And it just seemed so, and it took time. The first videos, I mean, the first clue literally took me all day, because I didn't know anything about anything when it came to video editing and any of that. I mean, I literally grabbed, the only thing it was free on my machine. It was Windows Live Movie Maker, which is really, really basic. It's like really trying to draw well with paint. Paint has some tools, and you can draw it with it, but it's not probably recommended. Film students don't get introduced to Windows Live Movie Maker. Usually they start with like Studio and one of those things. So, but yeah, it did feel like that Jerry Maguire moment, and I had to get it out of my head.
You're like, I gotta get this down. I gotta write some. I gotta get the truth out. Yeah, because it resonates with you so well. You said you watched his video. Was there anybody else that you watched? Maybe.
Well, no, there were. It's funny because people were asking me, it's like how I got into it, and for me, I was in the right place at the right time. Again, I didn't create Flat Earth. Definitely not the father of Flat Earth. But what I did was I created the first dummies guide for it. And that really helped, because the people that were out there before me, and there were 4 guys out there that had made quite a bit of content before I got there. Eric Dubay, Matt Boylan, Cesar, and then a guy which most people don't even remember, because his channel name's so screwed up, and that is Jay Henning Caligula. Remember that guy?
Yeah,
Jay Henning Caligula.
Very awesome.
Yeah, he made Flat Earth videos all the way from like early 2014 all the way up to the middle of 2015, and they just stopped for whatever reason. And he had a lot of content out there. So what happened was, when I made the clues, up until that point, people were kind of glancing around. It's like but they weren't really sure what it kind of all meant. And I'll give you kind of a quick little analogy. It's like if you had a door, you're walking down the street and you see a door. And outside of the door, you see fermented juice with an arrow pointing to the door. Another thing says libations pointing towards the door. Another one says, spirits, pointing towards the door, right? And nobody's walking in the freaking door. I walk up to the door and I just nail 3 letters to the top of it. And I say bar, right? And everyone's like, holy smokes, there's a bar there? Has this been there the entire time? And then they walk in. And so there was a lot of content for people to go backwards into. So they saw my stuff, then they kind of got the concept, and then Eric stuff. There's like going through Eric stuff, and Eric started getting a lot of subs, and Jay Henning had a lot of stuff, and Cesar. So by the time that happened, then people started adding their own things. Then you had Jaron and Glowbusters and Patricia Steer and all these other people in 2015 just started. So the content started ramping up really, really quickly. Right. So I was just lucky, because if it was just my stuff and nobody else had made any stuff, it wouldn't have nearly gotten as much traction. It was, if you believe in the Flat Earth University, my stuff was definitely 101. And other people, again, which is why you don't give freshmen 200 and 300 level books, because it spooks them.
You're like the recruiter.
I am the recruiter.
You recruit them.
I was, but
get them in, and then they can go deeper into the rabbit hole and start looking at more information and draw, you know, their own conclusions to, you know, whatever
Right.
information they're looking at, and go deeper and deeper into this.
Yep.
You know, absolutely. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was fun, and
Yeah.
again, it was great to hear. And I got these same emails over and over, whereas people would say, "Oh yeah, I was looking at Matt's stuff, and then I found yours. I was looking at Eric's stuff, and I found yours. I was looking at other people's stuff. Then it was like they saw mine. It's like, oh, I get it." And then they go back, and it's like, yeah, like a lot of people had a hard time reading Eric's 200 proofs or whatever he had at the time until they read my stuff. You really have, with this sort of concept, you really have to hit people with a basic framework, which is exactly what the clues were. I mean, the clues had no real math to speak of. I didn't talk about the 8 inches per mile squared. I didn't talk about really, I don't think I even talked about long distance photography or anything like that. It was like, no. It just, here's the basic concept. And
Right.
people, you have to appeal to the man on the street. And I'm not going to call people dumb or anything like that. Some science people, you've read it in comments where people will say, oh, you know, the people have been dumbed down so much. It's like, no, they haven't been dumbed down. There's still a lot of very intelligent people. What you've done is you've changed their priorities to where instead of science has basically told people, let's just leave science up to us. You guys can look at everything else. And so, yeah, people can tell you, again, who's the most attractive people on Game of Thrones, and who's the most famous reality housewife show, and here are my top 10 apps on my phone. People know a lot of stuff, but when it comes to science, no, they don't, because they're basically, it's like, yeah, you don't want to learn science, you don't have to learn science anymore. We've changed the game. Sort of like,
yep.
It's even the same thing with like PE. Remember, like physical education, that used to be required. Nowadays, from what I understand, you can skip that entirely if you want.
Wow.
So everything's kind of become optional. And so science has a hard time with this now, because their arguments, and I know not to go off on a quick tangent, but science's arguments don't even resonate the slightest with the general public, because the general public has no idea what they're talking about. You know, if science starts going into math, and I've told people this flat out. I said, you think that science is going to beat the flat Earth with math? Oh, no. It's not going to happen, because the average person has no idea. I mean, most people will avoid algebra class, let alone geometry and trig. And that's what we're talking about. 8 inches per mile. And I knew this when we first started rolling out the 8 inches per mile squared, because once you said that, people started glazing over and started doing that whole, wait, I don't remember much algebra when I was in school, so you're just talking static to me right now. And anyway, so sorry.
No,
there you go.
Yeah. Tell us about your Hollow Earth experience.
Hollow Earth was kind of how I got into this, where that was one of the last conspiracy things I had looked into, was Hollow Earth. If you guys don't know what Hollow Earth is, it actually was tied to Richard Byrd. That's how I got into flat Earth. Initially got into flat Earth was because Richard Byrd, the old myths and legends of Richard Byrd, the youngest United States admiral in the history of the Navy, was supposedly had gone up to the North Pole in 1926 and it turned into like a journey to the center of the Earth type thing, where he saw civilizations. It was written in a secret diary and blah, blah, blah. And I think that part of that is probably true. But the fact remains is that the remainder of his missions, literally from 1928 until his death in 1957, were in Antarctica. So whatever he found at the North Pole, I think, and that would kind of make sense, because if you went to the North Pole and all of a sudden you saw something, it's like, wait a minute, if this is a globe, that shouldn't be there type of thing. Then it's like, we got to figure out what the outer boundary is like. You know, North Pole is easy by comparison. And I'm sure they sent follow-up people and missions there. You just never heard about it.
Well,
but
the
that's
Germans
what
went there before Admiral Byrd to claim a piece of Antarctica.
Yeah. The Germans
and the Americans.
The Germans were they're a very crafty bunch, and we won't go into history here that much, but people forget how close they were, how close we all were to speaking German right now. It was really, really dicey towards the end of that war. But they were the only ones in Antarctica during World War II. The only ones in Antarctica. Which again, if you follow any of the Indiana Jones stuff, you know, there's a little. What is that? There's a little bit at the heart of every myth. There's a little bit of truth. I believe that. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? You know, if you want to take over the world and you're willing to pull out all the stops and go for broke and look in every corner, it's like, it's true. It's like, look, if you think that Harry Potter's wand exists and that would help you in the war effort, you're going to go look for that wand. If you hear there's something happening in Antarctica, oh, you bet you're going to go down there or go underneath some tomb in Egypt or whatever it is, Ark of the Covenant, Holy Grail. Yeah, you're going to look for all that crap.
Then long after that, we all know the history. Admiral Byrd and other countries signed the treaty.
Yeah, and then they lock it down. Yeah, it was
something going on.
Oh, absolutely. There's something going. In fact, I released that thing today, which I thought was fascinating. Somebody had sent it to me where Fitbit, you know, that little thing you're wearing your wrist. I don't know if any of you guys wear Fitbits, but the Fitbit was accused of security issues recently, not by Congress or anything, because it tracks your movements, right? It uploads it to the cloud, and so there's programs now where you can track all of where Fitbit goes, any Fitbit user, and it was compromising. They thought it was compromising some of the military things because anyone that, you know, because it looks like a freaking wristwatch, and people wearing Fitbits into all corners of every military base, right? And on top of that, they were wearing them. You could look at this in the video I just released today, where they were wearing them down in Antarctica. So in really odd places. We don't know who these people were, but there were some people wearing Fitbits in some really odd places in Antarctica. You know, next to, you know, where there shouldn't be people, and wherever they were walking, you know, because they'll hug the contour of the facility. So if it's a circular facility, you know, the person walking it, you'll see the whole thing, and it doesn't have to be necessarily walking either. You know, people forget to turn their Fitbits off when they're driving. It'll also show. So yeah, Antarctica, mysterious place.
Yeah, it's been said that could be a gateway to the underworld also.
Yeah,
possibly,
potentially. Why not? Why not? I can't take anything off the table anymore.
Yeah, true that. I totally agree with that. Yeah, so Antarctica, yeah, interesting stuff. But, you know, again, Admiral Byrd, part of the establishment, you know, Freemason, how viable is his story? I mean, it is somewhat plausible to
think of it this way. The Admiral Byrd, yeah, of course, there's a lot of military men who are Masons, and of course, the rumor, I believe it to be true, that when you become an astronaut, you're immediately, you know, bumped, you're fast tracked through the Masonic program, because it's all about secrecy. The big thing in Masonry, and I know more about Masonry, I think most Masons do, where it's all about secrets. That's the reinforcing thing. No matter what we tell you, every degree you go through is reinforced with this oath at the end. If you go, you know, and if you reveal this secret, and they just come up with different ways of killing you. It's like your tongue will be pulled out. You know, you'll do an Italian necktie, or we'll hang you up by your fingernails, or we'll, you know, do all these awful things to you. And so it was reinforced time and time again, kind of like the military does. You know, the military kind of does the same thing. It's like, look, if you reveal these secrets, we'll throw you up on treason and you'll get shot.
Yeah, basically,
or hung or whatever. And there's not going to be a trial or anything like that. It's the military. You just sign this piece of paper saying we could do that. So do I think that everything that Admiral Byrd said should be considered gospel? Not necessarily. I mean, I think there's some fabrication potentially even with his secret diary, which, you know, again, it's a secret diary. No one actually has it. But right. At the same time, there was most of the stuff that happened when it came to hiding this place happened without him, meaning he died of a quote unquote heart attack in 1957, and the treaty, he had nothing to do with it. And everything else, you know, the NASA program started up a year after he died. And I think after watching his interview, and again, we were lucky to get it from that CBS affiliate when he was on the Long Jeans Chronoscope, I noticed that he was very comfortable on camera, very, to the point where remember, he's a military man, but he's got some charisma, and you could hear him like lets things slip. That little line, it's like, oh yeah, well, there's probably uranium down there, and all of a sudden going, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that. I don't want to get in trouble. It's like, dude,
Right.
you're on national television. You
Yep.
shouldn't.
Yep.
You
A lot of
shouldn't be.
natural resources. There's coal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
he's
did
saying
say that.
he's saying all these things, and I think my personal opinion is that he was just he couldn't be trusted entirely. And people like that don't take chances. You watch enough mob movies, they all do the same thing. It's like, can we trust Joey? Can we trust him? And if one guy out of like 20 people in the room says, Joey, I don't know, that's it. Joey is clipped, right? That's how
Yeah,
it
right.
works in the mob. The military, I think, is way worse because you don't take chances. You don't. Sort of the same thing with the treaty itself, which is the treaty itself, honestly, probably saved a lot of lives because let's say you let British Petroleum or Exxon or whatever down there and a plane does go off course. Right. And it's like, and then some of these pilots going, what the hell is that thing? And they come back. What are you going to do? You got to take care of them. And plus, these guys aren't going to be able to keep a secret. The old rule still applies, which is what's the best way to keep a secret between three people? Well, you kill two of them because human beings love to divulge secrets. Everybody loves the dish, the juicy stuff, the gossip. So clipping him was one thing, but the Antarctic Treaty also, that's what they didn't want to deal with. It's like, you know what? Screw the money. And again, that shows you how big this thing is. Screw the money. We don't care. We would have to take care of too many loose ends. It's not going to be worth it for us. I mean, how many people, and eventually you're going to have to draw this line in the sand. You're going to have to tell a petroleum company, oh yeah, by the way, once you get to these coordinates, you can't go past there. And the petroleum company be like, why? And it's like, well, national security. How many times you can be able to use that line? Probably not that many. And again, it still doesn't stop somebody from accidentally going over with a helicopter or a plane. Not necessarily the ground transportation, because Admiral Byrd was flying his own planes down there for the better part of 30 years until he found whatever it is he found. So anyway, sorry. Again, if I go off into the weeds, feel free to reel me back in. Don't.
Good, man. It's all good.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. Okay. Moving forward, we can move forward from that. That was good though. Thanks for that.
Oh, no worries.
Let's see. What about Yeah. Tell me about your Russell Brand interview.
The Russell Brand thing. The Russell Brand thing wasn't as fun as some of the stuff we did at the conference, but I'll tell you the Russell Brand thing. So everything people don't know, but in fact, I didn't know either, is that media pays attention to other media. In fact, lots of people don't reinvent the wheel. So what'll happen is you'll have podcasts that'll be watched by bigger fish, by bigger podcasts. It's like, what are these guys running? Like, for example, Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis. Most people don't know this, but the Coast to Coast show, they listen to what he puts on. They listen to what guests he has on. And based on that, they may call this guy. In fact, the producers talk to each other. That's what really happens. So you have the on-air personalities, the people that talk, and then you have the producers behind the scenes. And the producers will call each other and say, hey, how was that guest? Is that guest easy to work with? Did you have any problems with that guest? If not, it's like, no, I love that guest. It was great. You are going to be invited on a different show. They talk to each other. And so what had happened was I was invited on a BBC radio show, not Russell Brand's. And I did, it was just a little small segment on an afternoon show over there. And it did pretty well. And so, and what I've also learned is that the more popular you are in media, the less advanced time you have to give. So Russell Brand, they emailed me and said, hey, we'd like you on blah, blah, blah show. And they didn't give me a date. And they just said, hey, would you like that? I go, yeah, I'd love to be on. And then they shot me a thing. I'm going, holy smokes, that's like in 12 hours. And they go, yeah, can you make it? It's like, you don't say no. That's the big thing. You always you make the time, especially for someone and I like Russell Brand. That's just it. I'm kind of a fan of the guy. Not necessarily his comedy routines, but his overall entertainment persona. He's so over the top. And I've watched him in some movies and I've watched some of his stand-up, but I really loved it when he went in and was interviewed
the
by
Greek was really good. If you saw Get Him to the Greek, that was hysterical.
Yeah.
That was really
he did some great stuff. My favorite of his was the remake of the Dudley Moore, Liza Minnelli Arthur movie which a lot of people, again, you got to be old to even watch that, where he played, a rich kid in New York who, when you have a lot of money, the money dictates where you're going to go in life. You can't just do anything because there's a certain persona behind the money. And he, and I did not talk to him ahead of time. Most of the time, you only talk to the producers. It's only at the last second you talk to them. And so and sure enough, what was it, like midnight my time or something like that? Or maybe even, it was 2 a.m, I think. Because it was a morning show or an early, what was it? It was whatever it was an early morning thing for me, because he had done, because I would have thought he did like a late afternoon show, but it was like a pre-lunch show over in London. And we get on, and I can hear, luckily for me, I could hear in the kind of the background where he was going to go ahead of time. Sometimes you don't get that, where you hear the show, so you kind of know the speed of where you're gonna go in. And
right, you get a feel for the tempo. You can feel right.
Exactly,
right,
exactly. You can, and sometimes sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You can kind of feel, because they'll prep the guests. Some people will do like a 10-second thing. Okay, we're gonna talk to Mark Sargent. We think he's insane. Let's talk to him, shall we? And other people will prep it pretty good. And so with Russell, he actually prides himself in letting the producers pick the topic for him, and he just runs with it. And so he ran with this, and I knew I was going to have a really limited chance, because deep at his core, and I'm not defending him necessarily, deep at his core, he is a pure entertainer. And which means it's his soundstage. And like, a lot of people forget that when you go into somebody's show, you have to give them their dues, meaning it's their show. So you can't hijack it. You can't run ripshod, and you can only upstage them to a certain point. And so
I know what you mean. It kind of stinks, because you have to conform to their way, basically.
I mean, in some ways it's not that bad though, because you get it. I mean, again, it comes out of egos, and it's his show, and so he was letting me roll for a while, and then he figured out I was just going to keep rolling. You know what I mean? Like, you give me enough steam, I'll go for hours. And he decided to take over at that point and kind of turn it into his own little story time thing at the end. He did. It was like he was trying to derail me, and I caught him at the end. I was like, dude, wait, what did you think I'm going to do?
I remember hearing the interview, and you went back and you finished what you had to finish. He was trying to get you away from what you were going to get into. And
yeah.
Like, hold on here. Let me get back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
And you just carried on. It was great, man.
Well, I knew the guy well enough to where I've listened to his stuff to where I kind of knew. It's like, oh, okay, we're going to do the Russell Brand song and dance thing, which is fine. It's totally fine. I get it. I mean, honestly, his career, I'm not going to say his career is taking a downturn, but he's never going to regain what he did when he was married to Katy Perry. Let's put it that way. If he would have stayed with Katy, not that would have ever happened in a million years, because, I mean, talk about an entertainment marriage made in hell. But once that happened, so now he's trying to, I don't even know if he does any movies anymore, and it's great and all. And no, I was happy to do it. And I was glad he did it. And again, a chain reaction. There were other people in England that brought me on because of that show. There were producers immediately started sending things, because producers are looking for content, and people steal from other people all the time. And that's what they did. So I got.
How did they, when you spoke to the producers and the other people that were contacting you in regards to Flat Earth, what was the dialogue like? What was it? Were they welcoming? Was it more like, did you feel they were more so looking at you like, oh, this is just a joke, and we're just gonna get them on here for
producers
more,
producers don't care. Producers, their main goal is buzz. They want, in fact, I'll give you a perfect example. You know the rapper Eminem, right?
Yeah.
He owns several radio stations, because you're going to invest your money in something. So and of course there's street, hip hop, urban radio stations. And one of those stations called me. And in fact, the show was called Shady 45, shady because the whole Slim Shady thing. And he doesn't, he never shows up at the station or anything like that. And that station brought me on for, I think, 35 minutes. And we were talking, I was going through my stuff. And then what happened was the phone lines just started exploding apparently at the station. And remember, this was not even supposed to be a call-in show. That gives you an idea of it was like, it was just supposed to be a straight interview. And it's like, and they told me during a quick break, they said, hey, do you mind if we take calls? Because we've never seen the phone lines do this. And of course, you know, they opened it up, and we're talking about, I mean, these were some of the worst calls you could ever imagine, because these are people that, you know, the stereotypical street, you know, people calling me up, you know, from their cars usually, you know, just angry, so angry, just letting me have it. And it's like, what, you know, the profanity and just the insults they were throwing at me. And my point is that we got to the end of the show, the producer comes on. This answer to your question. The producer comes on and he goes, wow. He goes, that was so great. I am so happy you didn't hang up. And I go, really? He goes, and that's when I kind of learned one of those lessons. He goes, look, he goes, to be honest, and any producer will tell you this, love it or hate it, as long as they're talking about you, that's all a producer wants. In fact, they'd really, honestly, in truth, they'd want a 50-50 balance if they could get it, to where half the calls come in. It's like, hey, flat earth, that's pretty cool. Other people, it's like, flat earth is retarded. You know, they want that balance. They want that polarization. And that's why the producers I have talked to so far have all said the same thing. They don't love it or hate it. All they care about is what sort of reaction the public will have to it. And so and you know, when I get out there, do I throw some sort of conniption? You know, it's like, because I can't get mad. Remember, you know, and if you listen to the Shady 45 thing, these guys are coming at me. I'm not getting upset, because how can I? I don't even have the right to do so, because I was one of them. I told them, some of these guys, I was like, look, you guys can get mad all you want. I understand your pain and your frustration. I was one of you, but I'm not now. So I can't even yell back at you, because why would I? And producers love that. It's like, yeah, it's not to say that I'm a punching bag, but at the same time, producers don't want you. What they don't want is they don't want you to upset the host. They don't want you to go toe to toe the host, because the last thing, because then that carries over into the next thing, because then the host starts complaining. It's like, why'd you bring me this guy? And don't you ever do anything like that to me? Hosts don't like to be blindsided. Which is why we should. And was one of your questions, you want me to bring up the Good Morning Britain show or not?
Yeah, you can. Sure.
Well, let me bring that one real quick, because that one kind of segues into it. I wouldn't have gotten the Good Morning Britain show with Piers Morgan. I mean, it's the biggest morning show in England. I wouldn't have gotten that hadn't Russell Brand happened, and hadn't all the other BBC things happened. But when you're brought into it, you got to play by their rules. So again, Piers Morgan is notorious for being just a jackass of a host. I mean, he pisses people off right and left. I'm going, okay. And then on top of that, the last minute they say, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to bring on an American astronaut into the studio to be your counter. It's like, what? it's like, yeah, we're going to bring in Terry Virts. And it's like, okay. So I'm like Googling Terry. It's like, okay, who is this guy? And what I didn't know, again, they don't tell you, because the producers, you know, they're not going to tip you off. If they can cause some sort of weird thing, they will
blindside the host, but they can blindside you. Right.
Yeah, if they can. And so literally for 15 minutes, I'm watching the show through Skype, watching the show like from an off camera. So, you know, they're in commercial, they're eating, you know, Piers is having his yogurt and munchy things, and girls are doing their makeup, and everybody's checking their phones. And 5 seconds before we go live, my camera flips over to a wall. So now I can't even see them. I can hear them, but I can't see them. So I have got to, you know, play the whole dumb camera thing, you know, like kind of what I'm doing here.
Okay.
And then but Terry's in the studio with him, and people, I caught a little grief for that, because they want, you know, people say, oh, you should have attacked Terry more. You should have attacked Terry more. And go, no. You don't understand the game, which is, the producers have full control of everything. If I start interrupting and Piers Morgan doesn't like what I'm saying, or if I'm being hostile or abrasive, all Piers has to do is do one of these when the camera's not on him, and that's it. All of a sudden my connection is killed, and they can make up anything they want. It's like, oh, what happened to Mark Sargent? We don't know. Maybe he fell off the flat earth. You know, that's what they could have done. So my goal literally was to make it through the interview without anyone coming at me for any reason. But I will say this, what I did learn a lot. You learn a lot more from the way people attack than how they defend. And I went out of my way to try to talk to Terry. I mentioned his name several times during this, addressed him directly, and he would not talk to me. Literally, he always went through Piers. It was like I wasn't even there. It's like, as soon as I asked him something, Piers would either jump in, Terry would either talk to Piers. Terry never talked to me, never said my name. No, I don't even know he was looking at me, to be honest. He was promoting his book and all that. And I absolutely have no doubt that he was under orders. Now, if I ever get a chance to go live on stage with somebody, sure, you bet. I'll push it as far as I can, because that's a whole different thing. You can get killed to get thrown off set. That ruined, that's a whole nother deal. That involves a whole bunch of people. But when you're coming in through a video feed, oh no, you don't want to be that guy, because that guy, it's too easy. That's one click of a button, and again, they can make up whatever they want. And on top of that, if the producer has to do that, then you run the chance of not getting brought into something else. And I was invited to two other BBC radio things right after that, because I did the UK, regardless of the opinion of how it came across. People want, again, producers, they just want an interesting story, and that's all I could hope for. So there you go. Sorry.
Yeah, that was no, thanks again for that. Yeah. So when you went on the other radio shows, there were podcasts. How did they go?
Well, most of them, all the BBC ones were straight up radio.
Was
they
went scripted for you as far as keeping it within the guidelines. Was it something, or were you? Well, not scripted, but was there like certain questions they were going to ask, or just keep it within a certain range?
No. In fact, most of the time when I do those things, I'm not told unless I ask, and I don't, unless they tell me. Sometimes they'll tell me just before. All I care about is how much time I have when I get on.
Okay.
And as far as questions go, I think out of all the ones I've done, maybe 10 actually asked for sample questions in advance. Maybe. And the only reason I even had those questions, it was the first people to ask for sample questions. And that was Coast to Coast, because George is a little, I won't say he's lazy, but he's done this enough times. It's like, he doesn't want to research all the stuff. It's like, look, just give me some talk. I will, he goes, basically says, send me a battery of questions. I will pick some of them. And then maybe I'll expand on them. But most of the stuff I've done has just been just off the cuff, kind of like what we're doing here. I don't have notes in front of me, and they don't have notes, because really the flat Earth stands by itself. The flat Earth concept raises so many questions. You know them all. I mean, people have the emails I get over and over and over again. That's what's going through their minds. Producers don't even have to think about them. Usually the hosts, it's like, okay, how does fill in the blank work? How do meteors work? How does the sunrise and sunset work? How do the oceans work? How do the tide and the moon and NASA, and let's go down that road, and Antarctica, and all these other things. And they don't have to be coached at all. They generally they'll have their favorites. And the other people will do things like they'll say, well, I know such and such, and usually they'll tie it to a space program. I cannot tell you how many times people have said, even my favorite was Stanton Friedman, the world's greatest UFO researcher, where he goes, well, I had an astronaut write the foreword for my last book. It's like, you're telling me he's a liar? That's literally verbatim his question. It's like, it could have been Neil Armstrong for all I know. And it's like, well, I'm not saying he's a horrible person. I tried to soften it. It's like, I'm not saying he's a vicious, horrible son of a bitch bastard liar, but yeah, he is lying. But kind of like I let Terry off the hook there, where they were saying, that's kind of Piers Morgan was implying. It's like, well, are you saying that Terry isn't telling the truth? I'm going, well, you got to remember that Terry is, when you reach that level of his career, he's retired NASA now, as of like 2 years ago. He's the equivalent of, if you know anything about military ranks, he's like a full bird colonel. That's getting up there. And like,
Wow.
look, he's a colonel in the United States military. He knows how to keep a secret. You don't make colonel unless you can keep your mouth shut.
Yep, that's it.
What do you think is going to happen on this show? It's like he's going to all of a sudden break down, start crying. It's like, oh God, I'm so sorry. It's humanity. No, he's not going to do any of that stuff. He's gonna play it. It's like, I'm going to show you pictures. Here's some footage of NASA. Here's the ISS. Here's my new book with some really cool space pictures. I'm like, come on.
Yeah,
The part for anyone who's listening to this and they don't know what I mean by that is that because everyone likes to lean on the space programs. I don't care if you're European or Japanese or Indian or all the other space or SpaceX. Don't get me started on them right away. But the bigger question is like, look, just throw them out of the window for a second, because it's not like, remember, NASA was the first one. You can count the Soviets, I suppose, but it's not like we woke up one day when they took that first picture in 1972 and thought, it's like, holy, the Earth actually is a ball. No, we didn't. It's like, what happened before that? And we want to go back to like NASA was founded in 1958. That's about as early about as far back as I'm willing to go. I'm like, okay, how did you know? How did your parents and their parents know before 1958 that it was a sphere? And then their wheels start spinning. It's like, whoa, we knew. It's like, really? How'd you know? Tell me exactly how you knew. And most of the people, believe it or not, will use that stupid ships going over the horizon thing. That's what they'll use if they have to. It's like, really?
Because of gravity.
Well, no, gravity.
That's just how it is. Like, it goes.
Gravity people will throw gravity in sometimes.
No one's ever questioned the reality they're in.
Yeah. So, anywho, sorry, where were we?
Oh yeah. Well,
I know. I go into so many different things.
Let's see. No, you're good. You're good. We were talking about the radio stations and how the producers were, and then we were talking about NASA, about SpaceX program. And,
SpaceX is a piece of crap, by the way. Every time, let me get this out there, because I've got a big beef with Elon Musk, and that is, I have never seen it's not even a celebrity. I've never seen a wealthy media-based individual make such outlandish claims as that man. Meaning, you could take a futurist. If you don't know what a future is, it's someone that speculates about what's going to happen in the future. You could take the worst futurist ever, get him blind drunk, and he still won't make the claims that Elon Musk makes. Elon Musk makes you got to remember, let me give you his opener. Sometime, supposedly this year, he's sending 2 tourists around the moon and back with a crew of, I don't know, 5 or 6. So supposedly that's his opener. He said that last year. We're going to send 2 people around the moon. And yet, as of right now, here we are, February 2018. The Falcon booster, that doesn't launch even supposedly until like next week. The heavy booster, the first test. The capsule, what capsule are you using? We haven't even seen the capsule. We don't know who the people are. We don't know who the crew is. That's just that one, right? He also says, I'm going to solve, when the hurricane hit Puerto Rico, Tesla is going to solve Puerto Rico's power problems. Really? How are you going to do that? I'm going to develop a super plane that's going to fly from the United States to China in 30 minutes or less, or your pizza's free. Seriously, 30 minutes or less. And then he says, and it's going to cost less than a first class ticket. It's like, what are you talking about? Where are you coming up with this? We're going to colonize Mars by 2030. What? It's like all these things that he comes every time he opens.
Bezos.
The what?
And Amazon trying to get people into space.
Oh,
Jeff Bezos.
Amazon. Well, no, that's going to fall. Everything is going to fall the same pattern as the Google SpaceX challenge, Google X Lunar X challenge, Lunar X. You guys can look that up. Google, type in the Google Lunar X Prize, which was, and I heard this last year, which was like, oh yeah, we're going to give $20 million to the first private company that sends a probe to the moon and beams back images, right? But you had to launch by December of 2017, right? It's like, all right, what happened, right? And then And I predicted this. Everything I've called when it comes to this crap, everything has come right. It's come true, which is I said they're going to kick that can down the road towards the end of the year. And they did. Even like the end of the summer, they're going, well, we're going to push the drop dead date to April of 2018. And I'm going, okay, right, whatever. And so sure enough, and by the time they got to January, all of a sudden this little story, and you can look it up. The Lunar X Prize has been canceled permanently. Apparently, none of the countries were even close to doing it. The 5 countries that were involved, the United States, the Europeans, the Japanese, the Israelis, and the Indians. I'm sorry, India. I don't think we can say Indians. They were all, none of it could even come close. Nowhere even near to getting there. It's like, really? Because what happened? Yeah. And what I didn't know is they had been pushing this thing out. This thing had been going on for like 4 or 6 years, to where they were kicking this can down the road. And all of a sudden it's like Google in the beginning of this year is like, yeah, that's it. We're done. And they didn't say why. They just said, we're closing it down indefinitely. And that was it. So now we're never, and the reason why you can't do it, the reason why I knew this going on is because of the camera technology. The big reason why none of the private companies can go is you have no excuse. Remember, 4K cameras, so is 4K even what they sell is like 8K? We'll say 4K. 4K cameras, super cheap. Should be everywhere. Should have one pointing towards the moon, one pointing backwards, one left, one right. You just stick 4K cameras all over the damn thing. They're super small. You'd have to have an excuse that all those cameras would fail, and they can't do it. It's the reason why they can't go back to the moon. It's the reason why the Orion Mars project is not going anywhere. The camera technology has gotten too good. People on the internet, you know how it goes. They broadcast that camera technology, and then we put it on. Once it got on the internet, we rip it to shreds. And they can't do it. So they're scared to death of doing it. So they're just going to keep kicking the can down the road and saying, "Oh, we're going to do it," and then again, the general public assumes things. Honestly, you could go to the man on the street, especially high school kids. God bless them, they're dumb sometimes. You say, "Oh yeah, by the way, do you know we have a Mars colony?" And I bet you could get like 20-30% of high school kids say, "Oh really? I totally knew that." No, we don't have a Mars colony, or that we have people on the moon. But then again, China supposedly has had a probe on the moon for 5 years now. Nobody knows about it. Never beams back pictures. Sorry. Anyway,
yeah, I heard about that too. That was like where did that come from? All of a sudden they have something going on with her, and we're just learning about it.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised just China is the one that has claimed this. Why not India? Why not any of the others? And again, the Google Prize, it's going to fail. Virgin Galactic, not going anywhere. SpaceX, worthless. Thank God it's not a public company. And there's another reason that company should be public, and it's not, because remember, if you're a big enough investor in a public company like that, you get the permission to go snoop around. It's like, oh, take me to the factory, take me to this, take me to that. And you'd go there and you realize you're not doing anything. Elon Musk, sorry, this is my last thing on Elon, doesn't do anything. The man, again, you could ask the average person and say, hey, who is the who first came up with the idea of Tesla cars? They'd say, oh, it's Elon Musk. No. Elon Musk just bought Tesla. He was the one that made those guys rich. Tesla was a couple guys like Apple. He just bought them out. I mean, and he didn't invent SpaceX. I mean, he's never turned a wrench. He just got into it with a whole bunch of money. He made all his money a lot of his money off of PayPal. He was one of the early investors when PayPal went through the roof. And that's where he got his money. And yet all these people because he owns 2 tech companies, they keep asking him tech questions. They keep putting him on tech panels, asking about virtual reality. It's like, dude, he's not Tesla. He's not literally Tesla. He's just a guy that has $20 billion. Unfortunately, in this world, if you own $20 billion, people listen to you. It's like for example, Warren Buffett. Is it Warren Buffett? Yeah, it's Warren Buffett, right? Super billions, right? People want to ask him about financial investments. Sure, that's his specialty. He made his money off financial investments. Same thing with Elon Musk, but they don't ask him about his investment strategy. They ask him about science.
Yeah, he's a fake, man. No doubt about that. We've been down that road. Yes, we've all been down that road. We know SpaceX is just nothing but They're,
It's crap.
what are they?
It's crap.
They're blimped. They're rockets. They're blimp rockets, basically.
Blimp rockets.
They're
Yeah,
helium filled rockets. That's what it is.
They've never put a man on the top of anything, and you can bet that they're going to keep kicking that stupid moon shot tourist piece of crap.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to kick that thing down the road again. It's like, look, nobody's even talking about it right now. They talked about it last year. Oh yeah, Elon Musk says he's gonna send tourists around the moon. You haven't heard a freaking peep about it this year.
Yeah.
Except, I'm sorry. There is a booster that's supposedly going to launch 3 days after Mad Mike. You know, Mad Mike's launch is supposed to happen in 2 days.
Oh yeah, yep. That should be awesome.
Should be interesting.
That should be interesting.
Win or lose. Let's put it this way: win or lose, it will generate media.
That's what that's about. Mm-hmm.
You know how that goes. If it's a success and he doesn't die, great. They'll run the story on it. If he does die or gets injured, it will even be a bigger story.
They'll run the stories though. Yeah. It'll still go.
No, absolutely they will. He's like, has the flat earth gone, gone too far? What pushed Mad Mike over the edge? They'll turn him into this thing. It's like, really? Because you thought he was crazy a little while. Now you're gonna think he's what, a cult member?
Oh yeah, they'll start making so many jokes about him. He went over the edge and flew off the edge of the earth and died. And whatnot. Yeah. I can see the memes now. Oh shoot.
Yeah.
Okay, moving forward. Tell us about the Flat Earth Conference.
The one we just did?
Yes.
The Flat Earth Conference in Raleigh, North Carolina was fantastic. It exceeded every expectation that I had. The venue was great. It was one of those cool hotels where you could see all the rooms from the lobby, where it was like this big rectangular lobby and waterfall and everything, and had these great rooms. The big ballroom that we had was suited perfectly for our needs, and the speakers all did a great job. All the people that showed up were great, but more than that, it was a fantastic coming together of everybody without judgment. I mean, a lot of these people that showed up at this thing, this was the first time they could be in a room, unless you'd gone to a meetup, be in a room with other people that weren't going to judge you on the whole flat earth belief system. And meetups kind of, because meetups are much smaller, meetups kind of turn into this kind of a happy version of an AA meeting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, hey, my name's Mark. Hey, Mark, I'm a flat earther. Hey, that's kind of what the meetups turn into. But the national conference was great. There was just so much energy. Nobody slept. We closed the bar, the hotel bar, every night, because people not because we were raging alcoholics, but because it was just so much energy. Nobody wanted to sleep. People were just talking and talking and talking and talking. It was cathartic to get it out of your system. So it was 2 days, and I showed up there 2 days early, just because I was doing speaking. I wanted to help out in any way I could. And so my first day, I did a Q&A panel, or no, not even a panel, just me up there. Because I initially thought of different speeches I wanted to do, but for a lot of these people, it'd be if I did a Q&A, because with that many people at a conference, you're not going to be able to talk to everybody. You're just not. And I wanted to talk to as many people I could. And so doing a Q&A was the only chance for some of these people to actually do one-on-one with me. Just, get on a microphone and ask me questions. So I took some Illuminati New World Order Illuminati cards, and I signed them, and then I gave them we had two microphones going, one in the left aisle and one in the right aisle. And I said, okay, anybody that stands up and asks a question gets a card, basically. And so people lined up as I was reading my quick opening statement, and I read a letter that, I get a lot of email. I read a letter by somebody who said that their kids were questioning, they're challenging their teachers in high school. I thought that was great. That got a good response. And then people just asked me questions. And when we got to the end, anybody that was still in line got a card. So, because I think I had like 50 cards, it was a full deck, so we just handed out cards as fast as we could. And I attended most of the stuff on the first day, and then the second day I didn't as much, because on top of the speakers that were doing things, we're running pretty much nonstop. Excuse me. But what happened was the media showed up, and remember how I said producers talk to each other? They were showing up. The media was showing up from all over the place. And so I did literally 14. I counted them only because I had press kits. I recommend that anyone that's going to speak at the next one, or anything you do, it's going to be a big event. Bring flash drives with anything you want on it. Your best flat Earth videos, other people's flat Earth videos, links, pictures, audio, whatever you got. Put it on a freaking flash drive. Flash drives are cheap. You can buy them on Amazon. They're super cheap. And so I gave away all of them, which was 12. And I still had 2 interviews that I did after that. And these were not small people. You had BuzzFeed and you had HBO and ABC and different newspapers. And
I was.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the ABC interview. What'd you think about that when they put it together?
It was way better than I thought. I was pleasantly surprised by some of these people. HBO, Vice, treated it a little bit. They played it safe. They turned it into a little bit of a circus. Some people were going to do that. BuzzFeed, I thought for sure was going to be a hit piece because the guy was really adamant about the cult aspect of it. He's saying that people believe anything, and that we were kind of turning it into this kind of a pseudo religion. But then he changed his mind, and it wasn't that bad. So when he got back,
but we're not a belief. We're fact based.
I know, but you know how that goes.
I know, but with the wordplay these days, semantics. We're talking about that earlier before we started, and people get caught up in that.
Right.
Go ahead.
So BuzzFeed called me afterwards, and we did like an hour of Skype where he recorded it, and then after that, he turned it into actually a fairly decent piece. ABC and with major networks, what they do is they send it's kind of military in a way, where they send recon people out everywhere. They send like one person into different stories, and if they think the story is worthwhile, they will overnight people, kind of like FedExing people, and they will send a team. Where I don't know if they take a private jet or they just grab a red eye or whatever it is, but they will send a freaking team down there, and at last minute. And so ABC sent their main journalist and the camera team. And so what happened was there was a guy named Daryl that showed up the first day, and he was kind of scouting everything out, and he makes the call and says, "Hey, get down here. This is totally worth it." And so they came down and they shot. And then Trump had some, because Trump generates stories just every time he gets up in the morning. He uses a different towel out of the shower. I think they run a story on it. So he bumped us. So we were supposed to run back in December, and something he did bumped us. But Rob Skiba made an interesting observation. He said that, I don't think he put that on the thing he did today. He goes, they were still working on that thing all the way up to the last day. I go, really? How'd you know? He goes, because my sub count that they flashed on the screen for that interview, he goes, that sub count was only from like not even 48 hours before the story ran. Because so they were doing polish work on it and reworking it the entire time, or just last minute. But it was very fair, very objective. They didn't use any funny music. I thought all the sound bites they did were, I couldn't have picked better sound bites for the Bimmer, because they only talked to a few people. They talked to Daryl, they talked to me, they talked to Rob, and a few other people. And in fact, they talked to Rob for pushing an hour, and they only used like less than 90 seconds, but that's how it works. I mean, Vice Media, for example, HBO was down there for literally 3 days, and they ran a 5-minute segment. So whatever. But it was good. I thought it was very fair, and they'll catch some heat for it. But at the same time, it was good timing, because it came out. It's going to a week and change before the Mad Mike launch. So good for them. And they were the last one. They were the one we were waiting for. The German television people, they did their thing. We got that one. The French newspaper, I don't think they ran a video part, even though I recorded a video part, which was interesting. And a couple British newspapers. And it was because of that conference that I got some of the BBC stuff. So it all worked out.
Yeah, you've been doing amazing things for the community and for for flat Earth in general.
Well, just trying to
Somewhat
keep
like I
stay
know
level
people like
headed. That's all.
well, everyone's on their own journey, and that's what it's all about. And you're on your journey, and you've been somewhat of an ambassador for flat Earth, and
Again,
you've been really good.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I tip my hat off to you. You get a lot of flack from a lot of different people, but
Well,
dude,
it's
you're doing your thing, and it's a positive thing, and that's what matters. That's what I see.
Thank you. And
You know?
it's very much appreciated. I try to tell people is like, look, when it comes to this topic, I know people we've become what's happened is we've become really media spoiled recently. There's been I mean, heck, I remember it was 2 years ago. It's like, wow, we actually got mentioned in Forbes magazine, and it's like, and we were lucky. We felt lucky to get that, and now it's like, oh yeah, whatever, ABC, just throw it on the pile for the rest of them. And now people are they want this thing to be represented a certain way, and I totally get that. But for me, it's like, look, my side of it's completely unsolicited, meaning I haven't called anybody. When it comes to these things, everybody has contacted me. They've all tracked me down, and one of the big reasons, and I don't want to oversimplify this, is because I put my contact info out. That's the and let me review real quick. My first interviews weren't because of my work. They were because of Matt Boylan's work. Matt Boylan, that initial interview that he did when his girlfriend just interviewed him on the couch. My first half dozen interviews, not making this up, were because people, it's just talk about an ego killer. They were contacting me and saying, yeah, you're one of those flat earth people. Yeah. I go, yeah. They go, do you know how to get a hold of Matt Boylan? It's like, God damn it. Really? That's what you want? And so I was one of the few people with Matt's phone number. I call him up and I say, hey, people want to interview you. And he just did that whole aloof, and he denied all he wants. Like, look, it absolutely happened, where he was like doing that whole aloof artist thing. It's like, no, reporters, let them wait. Let them, they can let them eat static. I'll talk to them when I want to talk to them.
Right.
But the media doesn't wait for anybody. So what happened was it's like, what do you want me to tell him? It's like, I'd say, look, Matt doesn't want to talk. And so what do you think they did? They said, well, do you want to talk about flat Earth? I'd be like, okay, sure. What do you want to know? And that was it. And then once you do those first few interviews, that's it. It was just because people, all they do is type in flat Earth interview, and it's like, oh, there's my stuff. And they go from there. So again, I have been lucky to do what I've done, but I feel everything for a reason, because it's been a weird chain reaction of events that has happened to where everybody's just, and it's gone pretty well. I haven't had anyone really lash out and attack me. Very few hosts. I mean, I've never been kicked off a show. And none of the hosts have been really, really mean. I mean, yeah, the closest I think I ever got was on the same network.
Be careful, cats will dip you. Be careful. She'll send you out of here. I'm just kidding.
Really?
Cats.
How dare you? Why I never. No, the closest I ever got was because most of the time they'll let me know in advance what their stance is on it. There's a show on the network that I do called the Chris Everhard Show. Is a British guy, and he is he's like an amateur astronomer type guy, and he was just going. He wasn't, I wasn't going to walk off the show, but he just kept riding me, saying I don't believe it, and here's why. I've seen the moons of. I'm seriously, we're driving you nuts. He's going, I've seen the moons of Jupiter through my telescope. What are you telling me there? I'm going to say it's a projection. You're just looking up at some images, right? And then you go, I've seen the rings of Saturn. It's like, refer the last question. It's like, and you just keep going down. It's like, I've seen Neptune. I've seen this. Like, dude, you just keep asking. I'm going to answer it the same way every time. But I didn't want to be rude. But anyway, it's been a heck of a journey so far. I have not regretted a single thing, and I'm just glad that I've gotten the word out without. I haven't had a single, if this helps, I haven't had a single producer write me back negatively or they've called and nobody's ever said, oh, that could have gone better. Oh, this even the Good Morning London people couldn't have been. Yeah, it from our standpoint, it seemed awkward and weird and all this stuff. Producers couldn't have had more fun in the booth. It was like, oh yeah, let it go, because nothing was getting difficult. everything happened the way they wanted it to. So, I got my points out. Terry got his points out. There was no weird, awkward moments, and Pierce didn't have some sort of brain aneurysm and attack me. So it was a win in their eyes.
Yeah, that was awesome too. What else was going to ask you, Mark? And we covered a lot of things. I was going to ask you about the recent video that Masterpiece put out regarding the lunar eclipse.
Oh, it's good. I
just
watched that. It's good.
And what did you think of? Go ahead.
The lunar eclipse just adds to what we've done. I had the rare privilege. Again, talk about weird events. The documentary. Again, remember, there's other things that are going to be happening this year. This is going to be a huge year for Flat Earth. You guys just don't know it yet.
Yeah, it's a year of growth, no doubt. Absolutely.
The documentary team that followed Patricia and myself basically all of last year, they're going to release that thing. I don't know who they're shopping it to. I don't know who the distributor is going to be, but they took me down. Those guys on one of their trips up here took me down to Salem, Oregon, for the big blackout, the United States blackout eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to refer this to the other clips. When you see an eclipse, I don't care if it's when it comes to a lunar eclipse, that doesn't surprise me necessarily. Nothing surprises me when it comes to the nighttime stuff, because it's stuff we can do in a planetarium now. But to see it happen in the daytime and then have Mike Helmick break it down, and when you finally realize, if you guys haven't seen the Mike Helmick videos where he's saying that nothing caused the eclipse, meaning the sun was blocked by nothing. And that's a weird way of saying it. Basically, that the sun is self-eclipsing just like the moon is. The sun can shut down its light source just as easily as the moon. The only reason we don't think it is because we rarely see it. But when you see it for yourself up close, in the blackout zone, you get it. It's like, holy smokes, it's just a freaking light show. Because for the first time ever in your lifetime, usually, you see daytime literally become nighttime in the blink of an eye. So all the way up when it's like 90, I don't care where you were in the country. If you weren't in the blackout zone, you didn't see anything, because up to like 96%, it's still really, really bright. It's like, like a car headlights around an object. It's still very, very bright. It's blinding. But once it gets to like 98, 99, and once it blacks out, you're looking at a nighttime sky. And everything gets quiet. The cricket starts chirping. You see stars. It gets cold, and you get it. You start to. For me, it was the closest thing to magic I've ever seen. And so the eclipses, if you ever get a chance, I don't know, the next one's not for a few years anyway. Hopefully, we'll have this thing resolved by then. But all the stuff they're pointing in the sky, it does nothing but help us, because now when anyone references a super moon or lunar eclipse or even a solar eclipse, it's tied to flat Earth in some way. We're making so many links to so many things that you almost can't escape flat Earth anymore. Whether it's it's in sports, it's going to be Kyrie Irving, the basketball player. It's like, well, he's winning, and they keep tying him to flat Earth because again, athletes are so boring with their interviews. It's always the same freaking interview. So, you've never seen an athlete, say, well, the defense is pretty good. And, I couldn't find a decent heroin when I was in town. And I don't know. They got a cross-dressing this weekend. Any of that crap. No. You went from, it's like, oh, yeah, defensive, offensive, three-point line. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm a flat earther. It's like, what? Where did that come from? So, it doesn't matter what sport you're in, that people are going to tie it to him. Because again, he's very, very good. He's already won his title. He's articulate. He's all these great things. The entertainment industry, I wish we get more people.
One of his old teammates opposes flat Earth, and every time he plays that, who was it? Johnson or somebody? I forgot the name. I saw it on the Flat Earth Report.
Yeah.
And I forgot what player it was.
I know who you're talking about. He was traded actually off of Cleveland. He was the guy. The irony there is he was the guy. Oh boy, I can't remember. I bought 2 of his shirts. Reggie Williams.
I don't have access to my.
It doesn't matter
right now.
But that guy was on the original podcast. He was the one that set him up before the All-Star game. You got to remember, it wasn't that Kyrie just came out and said this. He came out and said this on his way to media day at the All-Star game last year, which was only a year ago. And it's, you're landing at All-Star at the, every media from all over the world, not just the United States, all over the world. There's all these media there, and they're waiting for the players to show up. And literally 12 hours before he shows up at the stadium, he goes on the internet and says, "I'm a flat earther." They were waiting for him. I mean, it was the perfect question to ask. When it comes to entertainers, though, the only guy we really have at the moment that's come out has been B.O.B. That was it. And I'm glad in one sense, at least he endorsed somebody. Most people don't know that B.O.B. actually chats with Jaron from time to time. From Jaron.
Yeah, I heard about that. Which leads me to my next, since we're talking about personalities and whatnot. But what do you think about Joe Rogan doing the 180 with the moon landings, and then now kind of going back, kind of leaning back towards that it was possibly made
Joe
up?
Rogan,
he kind of flip-flopped back and forth with the moon landing.
Joe Rogan, I will never be able to do Joe Rogan's show because the production meeting, they will call you, his producer, because the producer would call and I'd say, is Joe willing to answer the simple question of how he flipped? Meaning, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about here, Joe Rogan is literally the only conspiracy guy, literally ever in the history of conspiracies, that apparently climbed out of the rabbit hole entirely. And it says, there are no conspiracies. There's nothing there. I was never even down there. It's like, what? This is a guy who I got chills the first time I heard him attack NASA. I mean, because again, if all things being equal, the person with the most conviction usually wins. All things being equal, and he had conviction. He was just lighting people up. It's like because he get that sort of like that anger. It's like that angry sort of he's like, I am right. I know I'm right so much that I'm getting irritated. And then he goes dark, and then he turns around, and whoa, lo and behold, and I get it. He has people, they got to him where he's like, oh yeah, he got a year contract on the Sci-Fi Network. It's not like they gave him a multi-year contract like Bill Nye. And in the very first episode, he had to recant everything bad he ever said about NASA. Literally say, oh yeah, by the way, I
didn't know that.
Oh wow. God, yeah. Watch.
Yeah,
there was a science fiction show, whatever you want to call it. It's like a Jesse Ventura show called Joe Rogan questions everything. Okay. Watch the first episode, download it, rip it, whatever. You watch the first episode. Maybe I'll dig up a clip from it if I can without getting a copyright strike. Although other people, he's been going after people lately. So Joe Rogan did that. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, by the way, he's got astronauts on, he's got Neil deGrasse Tyson, and his friends were calling him out on it. His friends were saying, dude, didn't you hate NASA last year and stuff? And he just dodged it. I get it.
Eddie Bravo called him out on his show one time. Without going further ahead on that particular part, but there was an interview that he had with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was basically calling him out on the moon landing and pointing out things. And he had Neil deGrasse Tyson on the ropes, but he wasn't going for the knockout. It was like they were telling him, hey, ease up. Yeah. And if you remember that interview, I posted it one time. Go ahead.
I do. Joe Rogan, for whatever reason, I don't know why, he has a massive internet presence. People don't understand. I mean, he's not really doing acting anymore. He's not doing really stand-up anymore. I mean, he's been in the entertainment world for decades. I remember watching him back in the day when he was on a decent show, on a network show called Talk Radio. He was one. It was a great cast, and he was one. He was the conspiracy guy of all things.
Exactly.
In that show. So he's gotten enough of a presence now that I think he's starting to flex his muscle a little bit. I hope he doesn't get himself in trouble. But Alex Jones, he comes out fairly publicly. It was last year, and he said, "Oh yeah, they've got all they need on Joe. They've got leverage on him, and it is a family thing. He's got a family, ex-wife, kids, the whole nine yards. It's like, they needed him. He's the closest thing to the conspiracy world. I mean, Alex Jones is there, but he's a whole nother different. He's a different kind of animal,
right?
So, anyway, so back to Joe real quick. you've probably heard that Joe has mentioned twice now. If it was just one time, I would have said, he's not going to do it. But he did it twice, and with two different guests. He can get just about any guest he wants. That's the other thing. It's like, really?
His producers have leverage for some reason. Yeah,
they show other producers and agents the numbers. They say, look, Joe Rogan has a huge internet presence. He reaches a huge audience, at least on the internet. And so he mentioned to Danica, what's her face, the NASCAR, the only good looking
Danica Patrick, yeah.
There you go, Danica Patrick, who apparently is now dating Tom Brady in the NFL. We'll see how long that lasts. And she mentioned to him that he was putting together a flat Earth debate between Eric Dubay and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he said we're going to slate it for February, and he didn't have a date yet. But that was the second time he mentioned. I'd heard it was a rumor, and then all of a sudden he mentions it twice. I'm going, okay, you don't mention it twice unless you think you can pull this thing off. Like maybe you can call in a favor with Neil deGrasse Tyson,
right?
But it doesn't make sense because Neil has said very publicly that he said, look, I don't do debates with anyone for any reason. He's been really adamant. That's not what he does. He is a man with a microphone up on the stage. He's like, science is great. Space is amazing. Science is great. Space. That's all he does. Very charismatic. You know, I still don't think it's a joke. He's a cross between Bill Cosby and Sinbad the comedian, and maybe like 1/8 Jack in the Box. You know, because you just pop, crank him up. It's like space is amazing. That's what he does. But he does not debate people because he doesn't want to open that door because remember he's a physicist, but he's not a real academic physicist, meaning he's great for public relations, but he does not go into the hard science. So the physics community hates the guy, but who cares? How many physicists? There's like 10,000 of them in the whole world. So he doesn't care. It's like he doesn't get published with anything. He doesn't you don't see him wearing a lab coat and with test tubes. You never see him doing that.
He was Carl Sagan's protege.
Well,
he brought him up through that whole.
But even Carl Sagan was the same way. Carl Sagan
exactly. Yeah.
Great on television. You need scientific reps. Yeah. So anyway, my point is there's no reason, absolutely no reason for Neil to be doing a debate with, and really the first debate you have isn't going to be about quantum physics with somebody. I'm going to talk about string theory with whoever. No, you're going to talk flat Earth with a guy in Thailand who you're going to pipe in through Skype. That's your first debate. I just don't know. And if it does happen, then something's up. Because, and not necessarily anything fishy. I'm not claiming anything against Eric. I mean, Eric's got his own problems to deal with. But I think that it does not benefit Neil in any way. Neil gets movie roles. He gets walk-on cameos anywhere he wants. He can do voiceover acting. The rest of his career is set. He doesn't have to. He runs a planetarium. He's got his own little television show. Plus, he has a very extensive wine collection. If he's not entertaining people, he's getting drunk on expensive wine. So why would he even agree to this? I just don't see it. So anyway, so that's what. And by the way, Joe Rogan's gonna be the moderator. So what's gonna happen there? If Eric, let me give one more thing. If Eric does this, as long as he can keep it under control, he's fine. If he goes on the offensive against Neil, you wait. Remember I said that like they could cut me off in 2 seconds. They could cut off Eric just as quickly, and Joe would say like, "Oh, we lost connection to Thailand. I don't know what happened. Hey, tell us about your new book, Neil." And that's it. They won't even skip a beat.
Right.
Eric will be gone, and that'll be the last time he'll ever be invited on anything. So hopefully not. Anyway,
we'll see how that goes. I mean, we're all thinking about that too. We're all like suspect of that if it does go through or not.
Mark.
Yes. But yeah, thanks for that take on that.
Sorry to interject.
Go ahead, Crow.
Mark, have you seen that video where Flat Earth dude recorded what appears to be like a satellite on a balloon?
Yeah.
You seen that?
What do you think of that? That was part of his song, right? That was like the
no, not the song. There's a video where the channel's called Flat Earth Dude, and he captured what appears to look like balloons.
Oh yeah. I've seen multiple. Have you seen the one where was it 4 tons? Yeah, it was like 4 tons where the wind picked up and this thing didn't get off the ground fast enough and it slammed into an SUV and just destroyed it. I mean, I don't know what the satellite was made out of, but again, remember it was 4 tons where the SUV was probably 2 tons, and it was a mess. So yeah, I mean,
Well, this one is just like 20 hours ago. So I mean, and it's
oh
like,
no, I haven't seen that one, but it's
oh, it's
probably similar to
amazing.
the. Yeah, they
Yeah.
use giant balloons. I mean, very very large balloons. And if they were smart, they'd use hydrogen because hydrogen has twice the lift, more than twice the lift of helium, and send them up there. And again, how did they get them regulated to where they last so long? You know what I mean? With amateur balloons, they go up, but then they reach a certain altitude and then they burst. Whereas these things don't. These things stay up there for a long time.
Yep.
So I don't know if they can regulate them. It's like, oh yeah, keep it below 120 or keep it at 110 or whatever it is, or maybe they go higher. I don't know, but yeah, it's fascinating. The balloon program is a cool thing.
It is pretty cool. It is. Okay. What else? Where are we at with that?
Yeah, I was gonna say about music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many talented people, like Solomon, Nameless Backward, Dreads, Alex Grew. Like, we just talked about. And
I keep pushing to the media all the time. I keep saying, look at the music. I go, find me another. I'm not trying to be funny when I do it necessarily. I go, find me another conspiracy where there is music written about the topic. Find me a happy folk song about JFK. I got shot in the head. La, 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 no, you're never gonna
right.
It's never gonna happen. It's like the towers.
We can. Well, we could have Crow make us something.
But I mean,
I tell you what. Like you can, like Trotter was saying, you're an ambassador, and one way was you share a lot of music, and that's such a great thing because I don't think a lot of people share as much as they should. And
for whatever reason, people don't, and I know you get it, I get it. Other people don't. For whatever reason, a lot of conspiracy people, they like their conspiracies dark and brooding. Remember, this is completely unique that there's music being integrated into a conspiracy. People like their conspiracies. Also, why women are usually chased away is they like their conspiracies dark, like Heath Ledger Batman dark. Everything's just shot in low light and there's nothing. It's just brooding all the time. And I love the music. I like anyone.
There's a guy, a friend of mine, Shield Scanner. He's probably one of the most talented musicians on the flat earth scene. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he gets a lot of recognition, but it's just like what makes it about music that a lot of musicians is just so drawn to this flat earth scene, like Dreads and
because you can do a happy song about it. It's because you can do positive songs. Listen, like the playlist. I finally integrated all the playlists when I wasn't talking to anybody for a while. I took 2015, 2016, and 2017 and put it all into one giant playlist. There's like 270 tracks, which is a lot. That's it's more than your average double live album by a long shot. And as I'm going through these songs, they're so positive. They're just so many happy, cool songs. I mean, there's a couple grunge songs in there, a couple angry rap songs, but for the most part, they're really upbeat. And that's why you're saying why people are drawn to it. Same reason why there are women drawn to it, because women don't like dark things, dark stuff. What was the girl? Forgive me because I don't remember her channel name. She did the Sir Mix-a-Lot flat earth thing.
Amy,
is that her name? The blonde?
I'm not sure.
But she just released it just recently, and it was a happy Sir Mix-a-Lot. I like big butts. Only it was a flat earth song, and she did it on video. Didn't just narrate it. Intersplice stuff. It was her doing this. I was going right on. How many people? Because you get excited. People get into this thing, and they get so pumped. There's so much energy, and as you know, energy can be converted to music really, really easily. Some people, it's like they get pumped and it's like, I want to make a YouTube video and say my piece, and other people, it's like I'm gonna sing about it, and it's fantastic to watch. I literally my happiest moments when I'm doing this is just going through the playlist and listening to people's music that they make.
And I appreciate it because you do share it, and that's why like there's so many new ones out right
Oh,
now
yeah.
that has so are
Yep.
so in touch. Even beat makers and
Mhm.
guitarists. It's just amazing how the mind works the right
Yep.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot of
Hey,
fun.
Scarecrow.
yes.
Uh, just the other day, I realized, dude, I've actually been listening to you for almost a year, bro.
Oh,
And
have
I
you?
got your song off of Mark's playlist.
Ah,
Oh,
that's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
I get like short stories like that. Like I love it that people like you just said that people tell me and like I might not hear nothing for a few weeks and then somebody will say, "Hey, I listened to you while I paint," blah blah blah. Keep up the good work, and I
Mhm.
appreciate it, and that's why I think Mark, keep sharing it, and I think a lot of people, if you like the song, share it. I don't ask
Yeah.
people, I don't beg people to share it, but like it, share it,
Yeah.
get the word out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's again, it's another avenue for us, and it's been really fun to see the evolution of it, where just people just get
Mhm.
there's no end to the creative lyrics, and no end. I mean the what was it, round and curvy,
Mhm.
that thing that came out, just the end of last year. I was going, wow, they spent a lot of time on that video, and so
Yeah,
and
there's some good stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with Twin Serpent. Also, they're putting out some really good music as well. I
right
mean,
on.
there's so many people involved.
And
It's a great time, no
and
doubt,
and
no
again,
doubt.
it'll help because we're the community is really well rounded as far as the avenues we're getting into: entertainment,
Hmm.
music, sports, attacking science, attacking
Yep,
NASA, the conferences, all the
yep.
different, the hangouts, the experiments, all the different things. It's another facet that people can latch on to. And in fact, the documentary team that's going to do their thing here in another month or two,
Hmm.
they're going through the songs and trying to ask permission from people. That's like, oh yeah, can we use this part of this song or this part of this song? And so far that and there's no shortage to choose from. All right, because people will ask me, it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, what
Well
about
said. Well
this?
said.
So anyway, that was
Hey,
Yep.
it.
so you guys were talking about the lunar eclipse earlier.
Mhm.
I actually got to see it. I was up. I didn't know why I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I was up, and all of a sudden I was chatting with somebody, and they were like, "Dude, it's the eclipse." And I went outside, and the moon was starting to change, and then just stood there and watched it. Saw the shadow come across, and then that was Mark. I know what you're talking about when you say that you don't realize it until you see it in person, like
Yeah,
with the solar eclipse.
yeah.
Because it was the same thing with this lunar one, man. You would not see it unless you were actually looking at it, but it looked like you were looking through two pieces of glass.
Ooh,
If that makes
that's
any sense.
that's cool. That's
Because
cool.
and it looked like it was two separate objects. It looked like there was an object, and then like that was projecting the light,
Oh yeah,
because it seriously looked like a softball on like an illuminated banana.
yeah. And let me point out real quick where again, the little things we miss, and I think Orphan Red was the first one to bring this up, where she did a little video where she was talking about how the moon is so bright, especially a full moon. When you go out there, like I have night vision binoculars, I cannot look at the moon with night vision binoculars because it's so bright. In fact, when you have a full moon, it's hard to look at just with your own eyes. And you're saying, okay, what's the point? The point is, how is it glowing so unbelievably white? And yet, when you see all the astronaut footage from the Apollo missions, it's all this super dark, gray, subdued coloring. The entire color palette is just muted. And you'd think it's like, okay, if the sun, basically the ash doesn't match up with what we're seeing here. It
Yeah,
should be,
it looked like they
Yeah.
were standing in an ashtray. Is more like
yeah,
it, not
yeah.
not on.
It should be so bright. I mean, the
Yeah.
Apollo, it should have been washed out and
Hmm.
glowing from
Yep.
that
Well,
standpoint.
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, just last night I was telling Trouter the moon is out and it's bright.
Yeah,
Like I it's its own light. I think
it
like
is.
somehow
Absolutely
Yeah.
it
it's
is.
its own light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which leads to another question. I know. Well, let me ask this question actually,
Yes.
without jumping conclusions. Do you subscribe to any um, math model, like the AE model or the square model, or
Who, me?
yeah?
Uh, I, let me preface that with the model I used to totally buy into, because there was very limited choices back then. Back in the beginning of 2015, I was a huge fan of the Orlando Ferguson flat and stationary Earth map, which hardly anyone mentions anymore, with the exception of some biblical people will mention it because it's the only map with 4 corners that they actually say, you know, they actually put angels at the 4 corners. And it was sort of shaped like a roulette table, but then I ran into, oh my God, I got into so much trouble with that map. One, because of the roulette table. I'm not supposed to ever bring that up, because if you take all the numbers of a roulette table and add them together, it comes up to 666. True fact, I had no idea.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Go figure, right? It makes sense, and it really is. You can look it up. It's actually true. It's like, why? Whatever. And then the other thing was that that was one of the first times I was catching crap from somebody else in the community, because Eric DeBay's people contacted me and says, Eric doesn't want you to talk about the flat and stationary Earth map. And I said, why not? And it's just because he didn't like it. It's like, whatever. So, but then I got into the AE map, and then I got into the whole enclosed thing. So for me, it's pretty much the Chris Pontius models, if you haven't seen it, which is an AE map with a dome. The only thing I disagree on it, though, is I think the dome, the edge of the dome, goes out way further than we think it is. Meaning, if it took 30 years for the United States military to find the outer marker, then the dome is probably several thousands of miles out there. Of course, it doesn't look that big. You know, you're comparing it on a map. It's probably just a couple extra inches on a scale model, but that's what I believe in.
Have you looked into FPV's research, FPV Angels research, with the square map and the magnetic data that they've been getting? And,
sure.
And,
and again, I like a lot of the different maps. In fact, when I was kind of kidding at the conference about the Flat Earth University, how there was a class probably going to be called Advanced Map Making or Advanced Map Concepts, that's actually not that far off, because there's a lot of people that go into it. As you know, the AE map is a great starting point. But then when you start getting into it more, it's okay, there's something else going on here with the map. You know, the thing that drove Tiger Dan crazy, and the things that other people, you know, people in England have been working on, and Bob from Globusters has been working on, and other people have been working on, which is great, fantastic. I'm not going to exclude any of those maps. But for me, you remember, being the whole freshman recruiter thing, it is, I've got to hook them in 2 minutes or less. And the AE map, I've got to go with it for as long as I can. Again, it's like just to get it in their head. It's like, okay, not a globe could look something like this. And then if they want to go on further and look at other maps, hey, great, go do that. But
you're not saying it's fact. It's just what you're going with.
It's what I like.
It's a good conceptual model is what it is.
Sure,
it's good to show someone reference so they could weigh it against, like, well, this is what you've been taught and this may be what we're on, but I'm not 100% sure, because like we just said, we got people trying to figure this out. You know what I mean? So like people like FPV and other people are doing
absolutely
research.
What I don't try to get caught in is, because media hates this, and that is, or a general public hates this, and that is, you got to give them something, because if you give them nothing is intangible to them. And so whatever it is, and whatever that thing is, boy, it's better be, remember we're talking about freshman 101 stuff. You had a freshman, a 400 level book, they're skittish. It's gonna freak them out. So it's like, look, this, start with this map, and then you can move on into the classes that you'd never ever in a million years take as a freshman. So we got to actually get a university coming up eventually.
Yeah. So it's all about the truth bombs, and
we have somebody today. We're talking. Osher was going to talk to UNAV students. So today.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Osher,
so I mean, slowly.
Osher 06. Yep.
Yes. So slowly, maybe it'll gravitate to that.
Yeah. I mean, right now it's the way that I've never done so many meetup promos as I have done this last week, where there's repeats of things in different cities. I heard a rumor that Dean Marble and what's his name, Nathan Thompson out of California, I heard a rumor that they're gonna be going to South Korea for a conference or a big meetup that's happening out there. Malaysia, some guy in Malaysia called me and said they were thinking of trying to organize a meetup, and I put him in touch with Robbie Davidson. The UK meetup's going to happen in April. We're doing our second conference here. it's getting to a point now where things are, it's got its own momentum, which is fantastic to watch, and I cannot wait to see where. And of course, the reality television show, which is still poking around out there, and people say, "Well, that won't do much." I'm going, no. Got to remember, most of the population is social media based, and if you give them anything mainstream that they can latch onto, love it or hate it. I've always said that a reality. I've said this since the end of 2015. A reality television show would be the most polarizing television show in the history of what we produced. To where people will, you can see the headlines. It's like, is this the worst show on television, or is it pure genius? Because people will be
Right.
love it or hate it. And I'll use this example, and then you guys can do whatever you want. Is the and it was a show I hated, but again, I talked about it, was Jersey Shore, MTV's production, right?
Oh God, yeah.
Oh my God. There were people that loved that show and followed the fans, and there were other people that just, oh my God, it just drove them insane to even think about the characters. Snooki was pure.
Well,
brilliant.
what's wrong with Mike the Situation?
There,
exactly.
The shit.
Oh my,
What's the shit?
oh my God. But the point was, you couldn't ignore it. I hardly knew anybody that said, Jersey Shore, take it or leave it. No. It was all, it's like, God, deliver us from Jersey Shore, or it's like, right, what you just said. The fact you knew his name, it worries me. So,
well, I do live in Jersey.
Okay.
So,
well,
you gotta cut me some slack, brother.
But go ahead.
Yeah, they even had a show about Amish people, and it was fascinating. It doesn't. People
the
want to
Amish Mafia.
watch.
How about that
Yeah,
one?
they want to watch things they're not familiar with. 600-pound, 600, girl that's 600 pounds. People want to watch something that's totally different.
And I'm going to do a video eventually about why the media is finally starting to take hold of this thing, and that's because we've tapped out just about every other topic. I mean, how many shows can we have about guys with beards? How many shows can we have about people that hunt crocodiles in the middle of, I don't know, whatever the South is? Or, let's go deep sea fishing, or let's do Real Housewives, Birmingham, Alabama. I don't know, places that you never go. We've tapped all that out. Flat Earth is, it's an old concept, but it's really, really new, and everybody knows what it is. Even your average 9-year-old who's not going to make it through junior high knows what it is. Like Flat Earth, it's like, you can almost wait for it. It's like, that's dumb. It's like, nobody believes in Flat Earth.
It's funny.
I can imagine a group of people watching this on in a couch, and 4 of them may think, hey, that's pretty good. The other 6 are like, are you insane? I hate you. And then you have these fights, bro. It's, again, remember what all the producers say: as long as you're talking about it, that's all that matters. Yeah. And so
he reminded me of Trailer Park Boys for a second there, and they did do an act on Flat Earth. Remember that one?
Trailer Park Boys was one of the only people. Not only did I know about it, it was sent to me by one of my listeners, and I put it up on my thing. It was a fairly long thing. It was like 7-9 minutes, something like that. Yeah. And they freaking copyright struck me on that. And
whoa!
I know, go figure, right? I'm going, oh, come on. And I mirrored image it. I tried to play it as safe as possible. And what I found out was, with a lot of these people on YouTube, they just hire, if you're big enough, you hire interns. You hire a company to do it for you. You pay a company to just start going through the things and looking for anybody that's kind of breaching stuff. And this guy went after me, and he initially was cool about it. He's going, yeah, you ran a little long. I go, well, if you pull the strike, I'll pull the video. It's simple as that. I go, just get rid of the strike. I hate strikes. And he then yelled at me the next day. Turned out he was just throwing out strikes like candy to anybody who had it. And one of the guys he struck was, you probably heard of him, John LeBon. You guys know who John LeBon is?
Oh yeah, I've heard of him. Yep.
Yeah, John LeBon. Yeah, he was into the Flat Earth thing. He used to hold debates kind of like Nathan Oakley did back in the day. He did the Globe Skeptic series, the Globe Skeptic, whatever it was. And
Australian, right?
Yeah, he is. And he doesn't take things sitting down. He's a pretty fiery guy. And he just went after this intern. And the guy confused me for him. And so he writes me back, and he's going, I hate the fact I ever give you a second chance, blah, blah, blah. I'm going, dude, we haven't even spoken since that initial thing. And,
Right.
and finally I figure it out. I do some math and I'm figuring out who did what. And I go, and I'm not kidding you. I couldn't make this up. I write him back and I say, hey, just so you know, you're talking about this channel over here. That's John Lamont. That's my channel over here. Our videos were pretty similar to each other. And he writes back with just one line, which is, all you guys sound the same to me. It's like, you're killing me, dude. Fine, fair use. Take that. And that was it. I had it overturned. But yeah, sorry. Trailer Park Boys, yeah, they were one of the few that came after. But I was glad. Again, I'm glad they covered it. There's a lowbrow production. I didn't even know that they were Canadian, but they covered it. So many. In fact, if you go into type in Flat Earth into the just in YouTube right now, so many of those top 20s are big verified channels. A lot of big players. Just about everybody who's anybody now. Because remember, all your big channels in YouTube and anyone really is doing any social media stuff, they look for trends. And don't forget, last point, I swear to God, where that Google, who owns YouTube, they release, Google got into the cell phone business. They released that Google Pixel thing, right? Google phone. And they did that commercial just a few months ago. And what was and remember, Google is a search engine. So what was the very first thing that popped up when they were advertising that phone on that phone? The earth is flat, ? And that was because it was literally, and they're not talking about this in the mainstream media. It was the most searched thing in Google during the entire year of 2017. That's monstrous. It's huge. It's you can't put a dollar value on that.
No, it was. I like that you pointed that out because it's something that is definitely has gotten to everybody's household, if you will. And but I've noticed on YouTube a lot of channels like Cat Eyes and a few other channels they've intervened and just kind of messed with the numbers a little bit. And I wonder if they're doing that with the search as well, because it's probably a bigger number than what they're stating.
A year ago they changed the filters to where, and Bob from Glowbusters helped me out with this because I watched it happen. I was watching the numbers fluctuate. So before it was just you could type in Flat Earth into YouTube with no filters and it would show up. It was like going like it was at 7 million, 8 million, whatever it was. And then it dropped to like 4 literally overnight. And it's because they changed the filters. And then I mentioned it to Bob and he said, oh yeah, I never use that one. He goes, I always type in Flat Earth and then I sort by upload date. He goes, that gives you the most accurate numbers. And they've never fixed that. So like you type in Flat Earth and sort by upload date now, and you should do this with any topic because it'll show you the most accurate results. We come in at about 19.1 million. And you say, oh, okay, what was that compared to? You type in NASA, they come in at 9. You type in the Beatles, I think they come in at 13. You type in Lady Gaga, they come in at 16. Donald Trump comes in at 21. So we're sandwiched somewhere between Lady Gaga and Donald Trump. That's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
That's pretty good for any topic.
That is pretty good.
We're not going to be Katy Perry or Taylor Swift, but that's a whole nother thing because there's kids out there that just listen to music through YouTube. So
I've noticed. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I've noticed in the chats that there's still the usual trolls and agents and whatnot, and they're still trying to say that why are we still wasting our time? It's gonna fade out. It's phasing out, and all this shit.
Fade out. Because the
the
ABC interview didn't happen. Because
who knows? Who knows? They're just desperate. It's just damage control. They're trying to do whatever they can to just discourage other people that are just getting into it. So, it's gaining so much traction in 2018. It's just going to blow up.
The numbers.
So much going on.
The numbers. It is way bigger. It's way bigger now than I ever thought it would be. You got to remember that all of last year, we're going to be seeing the results of what happened last year, this year. So the producers that have been thinking about a reality television show, they're shopping it now. They've already done screen tests. I know. I was part of it. The people that were doing the documentary that shot it all of last year, they had to wait until the conference to get their last footage, and now they're in the edit mode, and that thing's going to be shopped around to whoever it is. We've gotten to the point now where, and again, it's not about the money, but you remember when you reach a certain level of popularity, I don't care what it is, producers get involved because they think about the money. Meaning they see the numbers. Everybody, there is a producer around. They go onto Google and they look for trends. And they say, and this one sticks out.
Right.
They go,
even independent. independent producers as well. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, they're
they've been
not
around for
like a Warner
while.
Brothers or anybody, like people who are independent, right? Exactly. They
Of course
still
they
want to
are.
do their own thing.
It was just a question of when it would be acceptable enough to where the forums, to where people didn't get too much hate mail. For example, when the Denver Post ran their article, when they were attending the hangouts out in Denver, they put it on the front page, mostly because the newspapers have nothing to lose. Newspapers are dying. So they ran that on the front page. And they got tons of mail. But at the same time, they got people to talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know, and because of the Denver Post thing, other newspapers and other people was like, wait, Denver Post ran that as front page? And nobody, you've heard me say this before, nobody wants to be the first person on the dance floor. Nobody, especially at like a wedding, right? You wait for that first drunk girl to come out there. And like, oh,
right.
You know, but nobody wants to be that first person. And that's what everyone was afraid to do. I literally watched a producer at the end of 2015 get fired because she pitched it. She was ahead of her time. She was ahead of the curve. Some play on words there. And she said she did screen tests. She put the whole thing together. She went into the meeting. She's going, I got something for you. Flat Earth. She goes, it's a virgin market. And this is a full, you know, I'll tell you who it was. It was True Television out of New York. And they said, yeah, no way. And that was that. That was the last presentation she ever did. And and I felt bad. But at the same time, she's still around. She even came. She's not an idiot. She knew full well. She had an instinct that I still trust to this day. And she came to the conference down in Raleigh. And I know one day she'll be vindicated, where this thing will take off, and she'll be like, I will mention her, and I will say, look, this person right here. She took a chance when nobody else would. But yeah, 2018 is already huge. We're already to the point. You wait. I hate to say it, but between let's say the Eric thing, the Eric Neil deGrasse Tyson thing happens, right? If that happens, that is a media freaking circus right there. Because depending on how it goes, because let's say Eric just flips off and wears a weird costume and just starts talking in tongues, right? Let's say he does that.
You're right.
The media will be like, flat Earth idiot makes fool of himself in front of Neil deGrasse Tyson, or he does well. Then it's like, whoa, Neil deGrasse Tyson on the ropes on Joe Rogan show. Let's say no matter what happens with the Mad Mike thing, he's already generating press right now. A lot of it.
Yes.
As long as he launches. You were talking about a lot of meat, and he's doing it at a perfect time, the day before the Super Bowl. Super Bowl Sunday is coming up in 3 days. So, no, 2018 is huge.
Stuff.
Nobody's going to stop this thing. You don't want to know why? Because it's easy. For the same reason the numbers have generated to date as well. It's easy to understand. All the critics, all the debunkers, we're heavy science based. It's not logical what you're putting out there. It's like, fine, then come up with an explanation that's as easy as ours. That's why you're losing, unless you can unless you can boil it down to something that the general population can understand. That's why whenever science comes out, it's like, oh yeah, I'll just quote some geometry, I'll quote some trig or some advanced algebra. It's like that you've lost before you even got in there, because they don't hear you. It's like, I don't know what, guys. You might as well be talking Latin or Mandarin, something, because they're not hearing you. The people that understand it, once you get the core of the concept, that's it. You're hooked. Everybody knows it. You don't sleep for 2 weeks. You watch videos nonstop, and then when you come out the other side, you're like, I'm so excited. I'm going to tell 10 people, even though I probably shouldn't. So
yeah, you got to just get over that cognitive dissonance, and it's the truth resonates with people, and that's what it is.
It does.
And, I think as a collective. As a collective, people are starting to see it as well, just because it's like the 100 monkey effect.
People are suckers for the truth. Bob from Glowbusters sent me something in chat.
Shout out to Bob.
The NBC News things. Can self-taught rocket scientist Mike Hughes prove Earth is flat? Yeah, that's the beginning. Yeah, Bob from Glowbusters, real quick. That's the beginning of Mad Mike's thing. About NBC's. Heck, there's a documentary team down there with Mike right now, following him. Win or lose, they're going to cover this thing.
So, is it a pay-per-view event? Do you remember, Crow? What was the deal?
Yeah, it is. Well, it is, but it doesn't matter. The media is going to shoot it from a distance if they have to.
Right. We were told that drones will be shot.
Yeah.
What? They didn't actually say it. Like there's people with shotguns shooting them down like clay pigeons.
Well, his crew doesn't want anybody shooting it, so
Whatever.
they're yeah.
Whatever. I mean, it's. I by the way, I did, for the record, I did volunteer. When the documentary team contacted me, I said if he backs out for whatever reason, if something happens, I would because the window, it's a very limited window for this because Super Bowl Sunday, the very next day. I said if something happens, I will climb into that cockpit. People around me were going, "Don't do it." Like, oh, come on, what's so bad? And then you watch that video, the last one he did in that parachute that looked like it was made out of baling wire and toilet paper. You're going, oh my god,
yeah.
But I would have done it. I would have done it because you never ask anyone to do something that you wouldn't be willing to do yourself. It's kind of like when you're daring somebody. It's like, oh yeah, go throw a rock at that cop car. It's like, what?
Yeah, that's it.
Don't ask somebody to do something you wouldn't do. And so I absolutely would have done it if I was fully prepared. It was like they would have flown me down there. I don't know if I could have fit in that cockpit. I'm pretty tall, but I would have done it just for the cause because you can't put a price. The first time he went through this, he generated so much media attention. You couldn't have put a dollar value on that. You couldn't. We couldn't have done. You could have done 50 billboards, and they wouldn't have generated as much publicity as he did, just sitting there in the desert doing nothing.
Right, and I like his stance when he's very subjective in what he's saying about questioning the science that's been presented to everybody now. Like nobody's questioning anything, and his approach is just really smooth. He's chill. I like his style. Yeah, man, Mad Mike. It should be a good event.
Yep,
definitely.
Yep, excited for it.
Kroll, did you have any questions for Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I had a question. Like, what do you? Even every day there's new flat earthers, right? Like, what do you think the best advice is for flat earthers to, tell someone about flat earth? Like, I struggle like telling my mom and stuff, but what's the best advice?
Don't get frustrated and don't try to win the argument right then and there. The biggest, and you've probably heard me say this before, the biggest problem with all flat earthers is that they forget the journey. Meaning, if it took you, if you're lucky, it only took you a couple days. If you're not so lucky, it took you a couple weeks before you were finally like, holy crap, you finally pulled your shades and it's like, went outside. It's like, yeah. But but the problem is you forget that journey. So let's say it took you 2 weeks to get to that point where you're going, holy smoke, it's not a globe anymore. Well, then you go, you grab your friend and you're like taking him by the shoulders and you're only talking to him for like 15, 20 minutes and you're going, why don't you understand yet? Why don't you get this? And it's because they haven't gone through the journey. I've seen it time and time again where people will go to family events and try to convince somebody in an hour or 30 minutes or whatever. It's like, dude, you could give me 2.5 hours and it would take a while. I don't think I could do it in a single sitting. It comes down, all you have to do is give them the idea. If the advice you want to know, my tip, and that is just give them the idea and let them run with it, which is why I put at the end of every video, if I can, and that is do your own research. Mm-hmm. Don't take my word for it. Don't believe a word. David Weiss does this better than anybody. Don't believe a word I say. Do your own research. I'm not here. In fact, there was a line I came up with. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but I will if I do it in a stage setting, if I ever get to debate some scientists on stage, which is, look, because they say, well, I'm not convinced. It's like, I'm not here to convince you. I'm not even here to persuade you. I'm here to warn you. This is the science, what's coming, what's out there in the street, because a lot of people are getting this. Now, it may take them a while. It may take them 2 days. It may take them 2 weeks, but they will get it. I get a kick out of everybody that emails me. I get debunkers that'll email me from time to time, and they'll say, what about this? What about this? And I'll just send them I'll send them like the list of testimony shows from my channel, or a list of this, or just a little. It's like, look, just look into it. I go, opinions vary. That's one of my favorite lines. Opinions vary. Your opinion, you're not there yet. You haven't gotten there yet, but you will. So yeah, just plant the seed. That's it. If it's just giving them a web address, or David Weiss has been doing those little flat earth clues bookmarks. Yes, leave them places
Yeah.
where people, or what's behind me. Go Flat Earth Blues. I know it's not super well lit right now, but just as long as it's in their head, my relatives, my cousins, they're thinking about it. You can tell because you get satisfaction when all of a sudden the person's been giving you crap, whoever you're talking to. All of a sudden they'll come back 3 days later and they'll go, and just out of the blue, you won't even bring it up. They'll say, yeah, tell me more about meteors again, or tell me more about this, or what about this? And it's like when that time has elapsed 2-3 days, and all of a sudden it's like it's in their head, and it's like you don't have to worry, because as long as it's in their head, they're going to do the same thing you did. They're going to try to resolve it. They're going to get stuck, and it's going to be there. It's just going to keep nagging at them. It's what happened to me. I wasn't just like flat Earth. That's the greatest thing ever. It only took me 10 minutes. Don't forget that the fastest person I ever ran into was down at the Pasadena meetup, which I was down just last year, where the Uber girl, the Uber girl who was driving one of the people to the meetup, and during that, what was it, not even 20 minutes, they're talking about this person in the back seat with the Uber driver, and by the time they get there, Uber driver pulls over. She gets out and she walks into this thing because she wants to know more. And I only knew this because she came up to me and she shook my hand and we were talking to me. I go, how long you been into flat Earth? She goes, what time is it now? I go, really? She goes, yeah. She goes, I just found out about not even an hour ago. Holy smokes, that's amazing. So
they were still there when we
that's
left.
awesome.
Dude.
Yeah. It's again, it hooks people, but you can't, because it comes down, there's things, every individual is different and they have a different educational background, different family background.
Mm-hmm.
Like you may run into somebody, they don't even have their bachelor's degree and whatever, who cares? But they may have family that are scientists, or their dad, he's a surveyor, or their mom does this or whatever, or they have friends that are teachers, or again, amateur astronomers. Every one of these little things sets up another layer of resistance that they're going to have to work through. All your job is to just put it in their head. Just say, hey, I believe in flat Earth. And they'll try to talk you out of it, of course. They say, well, you're probably insane for this, or you're this. It's like, yeah, whatever. I believe it. You don't, but you will.
There's so many different ways of approaching the person you're speaking to. Like you said, there's so many variables going into that.
Oh, God.
You have to kind of know.
Yeah,
you gotta feel it out. You know
what
I mean? You really need to feel it out.
I can't remember the good test. If you want to give someone a test, if really, again, the Flat Club thing, don't talk about Flat Club. The good test is asking about the moon missions first and foremost.
That's what I did with my brother. Just talked about the moon mission.
If you believe, you run into somebody that absolutely thinks that NASA walks on water and that everything that they say is totally legit, you may want to have them hear about it third hand.
Yeah,
So just different layers, because they're not going to go anywhere, because you have to break down. I can't remember who initially said it first. I think it was Darren Nesbitt who said that you have to take care of the moon missions first, even before going into flat Earth. You've got to go in and say, yeah, I don't believe in NASA, I don't believe in Apollo, and here's why. Then after that, then you can start thinking about flat Earth. Because the moon missions are very, very strong. Now they can give it up pretty fast, but even then it's a layer, because you're talking. I've had people literally, it's like fingernails on a cliff, where they'll say, okay, fine, the moon missions are a piece of crap, but you can't tell me that the ISS isn't real. Okay, fine, the ISS has problems, but what about satellites? All right, satellites, they slowly but surely, because there's a lot of people that really are in love with space. They want it. They want that space to be.
Oh yeah, that's a big thing. I mean, it's in everything. It's on cereal boxes. It's in movies. It's in every cartoon, every television show. I mean, God, it's just
like
absolutely.
Yeah, I have an arch nemesis, Jimmy Jedi, who he loved astronomy and stuff like that, and it's always amazed me, those people that, like you said, that they so much love NASA. To break that spell, it's just a hard barrier.
Yep.
And like I learned my mistake with my mom, so I used NASA for my brother. So and then I went to flat Earth. So yeah, and with the research, one thing with the research, like I'm getting a P900 this month, And I think it's a great idea for everybody to just research, not necessarily get a P900, but do your own research.
Yep.
As you know, notice, go outside, notice. You know, I'm looking at the moon more. I told a friend a couple of days ago, like, why is the moon traveling so fast this time of year? And I think it was Jibby Jedi, and he told me, you know, he'd explain it to me. So yeah, just research it and figure out why things
What
are.
we've also really lucked out with is that most of the population of the world lives next to water, and or close enough to water. It doesn't necessarily have to be an ocean. It can also be a big lake, or whatever it is. And that has helped us so much because of everyone, again, because it's simple. Water is level, and you can't get more basic than that. And everyone knows it. Everyone can test it. And that is, you know, how many videos have been put out there? How many countless videos where people are shooting over water? In fact, the big flat Earth core test that they're going to do, I believe in Hungary, where they're going to shoot 20 or push 40 kilometers or more. They finally got a laser powerful enough to shoot it. And I don't know and now granted, the average person might not be able to understand that, because really we're talking about the same thing that Navy guy said when they were targeting ships. The United States Navy can do this all day long. The civilians haven't been able to do it until now. So if they can fire 40 kilometers or more over water, great. Can't wait to see who can argue that.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. That's some good stuff there.
Anything else for you guys? Unfortunately, I do have to wrap up here pretty soon.
I don't have any more questions. No, we can always have you come by and we can have another catching up hangout or whatever.
Sure.
But I know you need to run. Katz or Josh, you guys got anything for him so we can close this up?
Oh no, man, I'm good. I just talked to him like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I missed my Strange World episode. For everybody that was trying to listen, it wasn't live a couple days ago, because I was stuck
on a ferry.
I was stuck on a ferry. Yeah, I was trying to get back, and
Okay.
I was about 15 minutes late. And if you don't come out, it's not one of those shows where you can just break in and every time just run in. If you're not there, a rerun automatically kicks in, and then you're screwed. So anyway. But thank you guys
Cool.
for having me.
Yeah,
Hey, Mark, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, and it's nice meeting you and talking to you and having this discussion and getting to know you a little better.
Yeah.
And I look forward to having you, in the future again. We'll have another little chat and we can get into other topics, the collusion and all this other stuff. And
right on.
You know what's up.
Yep.
But thanks again. Thank you for your time. Go ahead, you guys.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Mark. Thank you, Katz and Trotter. You did a great job. Everybody hit a like, support this hangout. Again, thank you for taking the time and enjoy your evening.
All right, guys.
Right on. Right on, Mark. Thank you.
The only
out,
thing
Mark.
I can say is thanks, Mark, for joining us on our panel. I appreciate your time, honestly.
Thank you for asking, and I'm thanking a little orange cat, but that'll do. There's two cats actually on this screen. That's fine. Anyway, nice talking with everybody, and stay flat and enjoy the great year we're gonna have.
It's gonna be fun.
You got it, brother. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Hey, guys.
Peace out, man. Much love, brother. Much love. Be good. Peace. Cool. That went really good, you guys. Katz, I guess we could shut this down, and if you want to start up another hangout, or I think we should shut it down.
Okay.
Shut down and start up. Unless you guys want to, what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to do a hangout?
It's probably just, I would shut it down, and if you guys want to do another hangout, that's probably the best.
That would probably be the best idea.
But before everybody leaves from the chat room, sorry to interrupt you guys. Tomorrow's ladies' night. Come and join us, and there's going to be a lot of good talks tomorrow. And I hope you guys take that time and be here, like always. Please. Thanks. Well, that's it. We'll start a new one up.
All right, cool. Yeah, you guys, thanks for coming by. And Mark, thanks again, brother. Thanks for hanging out. Josh, I know you wanted to talk to him about some stuff, but we were just trying to keep it going in the direction we were going.
Dude,
I wanted to hear more about the eclipse though. But we could talk about that in a little bit. All right. What do you think? Yes.
No problem, man.
All right, you guys. So close this up, Katz. We'll see you guys in a little bit.
All right, peace out, guys.
Peace out.
Okay.